No, I was supposed to have a presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the ground. Dr. Henson currently serves as the Chief Executive Officer of the American Accounting Association, a role she assumed in September 2020. And prior to leading the American Accounting, her distinguished career began at Arthur Andersen in Charlotte, North Carolina, driven by a passion for teaching and advancing in the field. She later returned to the University of Tennessee to pursue her PhD. Upon completion, she embarked on what became more than 18 years of exceptional service at Wake Forest University, Future of Accounting Profession. She's past president of the Federation of Schools of Accountants, past chair of the American Accounting Membership Advisory Committee, and formerly served on the federal government Cost Accounting Standard Boards. She continues to lend her expertise as a board member of the PhD project and the North Carolina Association of CPAs. Her research contribution span both academic and practitioner journals. Further solidifying her influence in her field, Dr. Henson holds a Bachelor of Science in Accounting and an MBA, both from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Today, her experience, but also her passion for advancing accounting education, research, and practice. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Éivoon Henson.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction, and it is so wonderful to be here. Amal and I are both just very honored to be visiting you all here today. This is an exciting time for the accounting profession. It's an interesting time for the accounting profession. And would you want me to go ahead and make comments? Okay.
Yes.
And so I think, a lot of people think that we're at a crossroads, but I actually don't really believe that we're at a crossroads, maybe in the sense that we are being asked to sort of change what we do in a very rapid manner. But I think that we're really just at a point where we are going to see our profession and our roles explode. I think there's nowhere but up from here. People are saying things like, oh, AI, it's going to take away accounting roles. No, it's not. It's not going to take away accounting roles. It's going to change accounting roles in both public accounting and in corporate accounting. And it's actually going to make what we do more exciting. You mentioned I started at Arthur Andersen. Nobody wants to do what I did my first year at Arthur Andersen. That was a long time ago, and so nobody really wants to do that anymore. We found it, quite frankly, a little boring. But now our students are graduating and they're going out into a world where they're doing what we were doing as seniors. And I think that's really exciting because we've taken away a lot of the mundane. Yes, with data analytics and especially with AI, we now are able to do more interesting things and exciting things our first week on the job. And I think that makes our profession and our career more exciting than it's ever been before. The question is, and I say this to our members, our academic members, our faculty members all the time, the question is, how are you going to change your teaching to make sure that they're ready for that new role? Because we have to really think as faculty how we are going to integrate some of this into our courses so that our students do come out career ready, so that they're ready for that job market. And so, I think that we have to think about that as academics. But again, to me, that's fun. Thinking about changing our classrooms and making them highly, highly relevant for the students is wonderful. I often hear people say, well, we'll just add, a computer science class or a data analytics class or something like that. And I will tell you, my personal comment is, that's fine, but integrate it into your accounting classrooms too. They need to learn it in context. And as students, you should be thinking about that as well. So for the students in the room, you should be thinking about, how can I do what I'm doing differently? How can I integrate more data analytics and utilize AI in an ethical and responsible manner? Because I think that's also very key, is that we have to learn how, AI is great, but we have to do it in a very responsible and ethical manner. The other thing I would say, if I may share a little bit of experience from being a volunteer with the AACSB, so one of the chief accrediting bodies, is that I have been on a task force, well, 2 task forces recently. One looking at research impact. So for the faculty in here, research impact is going to be big going forward. And also looking at revising their standards, not just along the lines of research impact, but in general. And so that's something else that we need to think about. And you mentioned that I have researched and done more sort of the mainstream academic research, but I've also done quite a bit of practitioner research. I am a big believer in speaking to practice. It has been a passion of mine since, I think the day I received my tenure letter. I think that was probably about the time that happened. I love to hear from practitioners about my research. And to me, that tells me that there's impact. So that is something else that we are going to see changing in our academic world quite a bit. And those of you who were at the summit yesterday heard me talk a bit about that. We are going to see some big changes. And we are going to be expected as academics to ensure that our research is impactful, that we are answering the questions that corporate accounting and public accounting need answered. We need to think of ourselves as their partner, not just the supplier of their new hires.
We have plenty of questions about the expertise.
I am happy to answer questions. I am happy to answer any questions or speak to anything that you may have mentioned.
All right. All right. Maybe I can start with the
Sure.
Yeah. That's Dr. Allen, would you like to add anything first?
Sure. معظمهم faculty ولا في معظمهم faculty
and students.
بتكلم بالعربي ولا كده؟ And do you want
You can talk in Arabic if you want, and I can translate.
صباح الخير.
Should be on. It's on.
Is it?
Oh, maybe it's that one.
صباح الخير. It's honestly my pleasure to be here among you today. I wasn't expecting this big crowd, either Yvonne or me. We thought it's a small group, but thank you for coming. And I hear there is a mix of faculty and a mix of students here today, and I wish you all
And staff.
And staff. So thank you all for coming on a Sunday morning for us. And we want to keep it as a conversation, but a little bit about me, as the associate dean here mentioned. I actually started here. I started in Cairo University, and then I went to the US. I did my second master in Old Dominion University, and then I did my PhD at Virginia Commonwealth University. I've been teaching at 2 universities. I started at the University of Toledo for 16 years, and then I've been here at my current university as a professor at Northern Kentucky University. I've been involved with the AAA, the American Accounting Association, since I was a doctorate student. And I highly, highly recommend, if we have doctorate students here, to get engaged with the AAA. Because it's my home, and that's why right now when I'm doing my sabbatical, so I have a year of sabbatical from my university. I've been working with the American Accounting Association as an advisor for membership strategy, and a huge part of that is focusing on providing value and benefit. So if we have a group of doctorate students here, I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to both of us would love to hear any suggestions, any needs that you might have. And then for the faculty and staff who are here too, we would like to have you all being a AAA, but I wanted to explain first what's the AAA. We're focusing on a national membership, especially we're focusing on the MENA, Middle East, and North Africa, and Egypt is one of our focus, as I'm Egyptian, not to, but they were focusing on it before that. Rates for Egypt. I wish I might. We have a small video. I can share it with you. We can, if we can play it. But I think the membership right now is like $40 for faculty and staff, and doctoral students like either 15 or 20. So. I highly encourage you to do that because it comes with a lot of benefits, including free webinars. We have a lot of, almost like 2 or 3 times a month. We have webinars that are free, whether on research or especially if you're teaching. There is a lot about analytics, AI, sustainability. So all of these topics that we all want to integrate with our teaching, it's part of the webinars we have. We also have access, if you remember, you have access to all of the AAA journals, and Yvonne can talk more about that. Also, we have a lot of conferences, whether it's for section conference or the annual conference, and we have also virtual conference that we hold in June. So from the comfort of your home, you can join, you can submit your paper, you can present your paper, you can discuss a paper. So we'd love to have you involved. I know there's a lot of talent in this room, and I hope that we can partner and make sure that we're providing everything to excel and be to raise the next generation of accountants and to be successful in careers.
If you allow me to start with the first question. All right. Well, it's not every day that we have over here to start a career in accounting. What are the major problems that you have seen throughout your path? How can they avoid them? And how do you see things coming in differently? Manly culture, but if you look in here, you probably see who's really dominant. All right. So it's women's time nowadays. How would you give them advice?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So I'll tell it, and there were 64 people, and I was one of 3 women. So it does not look like they're going to face those challenges.
We're the minority.
which is good news. That's really good news. But I would say, make sure that your value is known, because you don't make it through an accounting program without being able to add tremendous value to whatever organization, whether it's public, nonprofit, governmental. You will add tremendous value. But you don't want to brag about things that you do. You want to be a little careful about that. But you also want to make sure that your value is known. And you can do that in subtle ways. I know I felt like I needed to do that sometimes, and it was sometimes more of just a quiet conversation about, hey, look, I was able to do this, but you want to make sure that your value is known. Don't let anyone send you down an ethical path that you are not comfortable with. It does happen in accounting sometimes, and interestingly, there is some research out there that shows that women are sometimes a little bit more pushed in that. Men, it's usually after you've been in for a few years and you've got a family and children and a house payment and all that. But at the beginning, there's some research that shows that women are a little bit more. Stand your ground. Your reputation's not for sale. So, I would say also keep learning. This is a profession that, especially now, it has never been a profession that you could just go to college, get out, and then just, not have to worry about continuous learning. But more so now than ever. I mean, we're talking about ChatGPT right now. In 5 years, we might not even be discussing ChatGPT. Could be before then. But there are so many things right on the horizon. So if you don't keep improving yourself, if you don't keep learning, you will have that agile mindset as it comes to data and analytics and AI, but that also you are constantly looking out on the horizon as to what is coming next and making sure that you are upskilling yourself back. Do it yourself. Amal?
I might add, make sure that you advocate for yourself, especially women. We sometimes work hard, and I know we do work hard, but we want to make sure also that we're advocating for ourselves. The other point I would like to bring is find mentors and find good mentors also. And mentors, they can be inside your organization, but also sometimes they're going to be very helpful to find mentors outside of the organization who will be very honest with you and give you a great feedback and lift you up when you need. So finding good mentors in different circles, sometimes even from outside of your discipline completely, not necessarily in accounting, can be very helpful. People who you look up to. Keep asking questions and keep making sure that you are available to them and they're available to you, and do the same for others too. Be a mentor for others too, right? So mentor new faculty or new hires or even students. So make sure that they pay it forward as much as you can. And then definitely the point that Yvonne mentioned, make sure that you are, don't just settle with a degree, whether it's an undergraduate or a graduate degree. Make sure there's all programs or research and in different areas, or reading even in different areas than what you learned about. Don't just read accounting, just read other disciplines too, and because that's gonna help you, even as a researcher, readings that not necessarily you are used to, because definitely that's gonna expand your horizon.
Thank you. Well, if you allow me one more question for me, and then we'll open the platform. Now, we've got a whole lot of faculty and staff in here, and about what would the American Accounting Association, how would they be able to help them in both research and in practice? How about the membership and the publication fees? What can you do in that regard?
So as Amal mentioned, just this past year, we introduced tiered membership into the AAA, which is something that I think, you mentioned that I chaired the Membership Advisory Committee. That was probably 14, 15 years ago. It's taken us a long time, and I think they were asking for it before my time there. We were asking for it for a long time. We are a global association. It's somewhere around 27, 28% of our membership is outside the U.S., and we have seen it growing over the past years. And one of the things that we noticed is that we weren't really doing anything differently for that membership. And there are economic differences across countries. I mean, it's a reality, right? In some data, as you always have to, and the researchers in here know that, you have to bring forth data, and our board and council are made up of a bunch of academics, so we definitely have to bring forth data, more than most. And we did, and we were able to introduce the tiered pricing, and as Amal mentioned, it's significantly lower. So I can give you, in the U.S., it would be $250 for a year for a full member. Here, it's $40. So that's a big. At the same time, we said, okay, if we're going to do this, we need to really pay attention to the needs of our international members. And so it was one of the reasons that I was absolutely thrilled when Amal called me in the spring and said she was going to be on sabbatical, and that she Accounting Association, and we've been friends for a long time in the AAA. And so I said, give me a week, I'll figure this out. And so we brought her on board, and she's done an amazing job of pulling together an international membership advisory committee that represents literally the world except for the US and Canada. I mean, basically, we kicked them out and said, you're not allowed to be on this. Only people, we do have somebody from Mexico, but other than that, it's the rest of the world. And we are providing webinars now specifically for them. What we do not have yet that I am hoping to have is tiered submission prices for journals. That is something that we do not have, but Amal and I have decided on this trip, interestingly, that we are going to have tiered pricing for our virtual conference in May. So be expecting that, because that is a virtual conference. And Amal, I'm going to let you talk about it in a minute, what you're doing for doctoral students and international members. Many of our webinars are very geared to teaching and really transcend any barriers. I mean, they're for everyone globally. But we're working on pulling more conferences out and into there. We've talked about having something in the Middle East, maybe a journal conference in the Middle East. So we are looking to provide more and more benefits beyond those that we are already providing. And my challenge to you would be, if you have, I would love to hear them. And I'm going to turn it over to Amal to talk about some of her work.
Yeah, and I would like to add something about the International Membership Advisory Committee that we just launched a few months ago, is that we wanted it to be a grassroots effort. And that's why we said we want a representative from each country. And we have actually someone from Egypt here, Dr. Inji from AUC, and hopefully she's going to be, connecting with all of you. It's like some of the things that Yvonne mentioned. But one of the items that was suggested, like AI, we want to make sure that we have more webinars about AI, but we wanted also at the time that we can attend, because most of the webinars that we used to have later in the day, and that would be inconvenient to other members, other side of the globe. So we immediately took on the challenge, and we said, okay, we're going to have one. And we actually had one webinar maybe 2 weeks ago on a Friday, very early morning in the US, but it was like 5 here. So, and there was a lot of attendance even from Egypt. I was very surprised and very happy to see a lot of attendance from Egypt on that webinar. It was how to use AI for teaching. How can you leverage the AI to make your teaching more practical, more interesting, more relevant, including, for example, how can you use AI to tweak some of the cases or build mini cases that can help you with the teaching, financial, managerial, auditing tasks. And some of the other, like notebook, and other resources that was very helpful. It was an hour. We also heard from them something about how to use AI for research. So we're going to also have from the same speakers a follow-up webinar on it very soon. We're also working on bringing researchers on these webinars. So we're planning on one in January, like the third week of January on a Friday. We'll try to make it on a Friday so all of you can attend, because we know that you're not working on a Friday. And hopefully it's going to be convenient for you, but it's going to be about how to use AI, leverage AI for research. But also when you're doing AI research, you want to be making sure about ethical consideration and things that can make your research be publishable too. And more to come, but the other thing that Ivan mentioned is the virtual conference. This virtual conference we call Spark meeting. And we usually have it in mid-June, and we've been having it for 3 or 4 years now, since the pandemic, since the COVID started. We moved the regional conferences to the Spark meeting or Spark conference. And this is a great opportunity, whether you're presenting a research, but if you're not even presenting, I would encourage you to attend it. It's like a 2 or 3 days full of sessions. Research sessions, teaching sessions, different panels, practice professionals. And it's going to be, we decided this year to make it a little bit different and add actually a little bit some earlier session for the US, so it will be convenient for you to attend also and participate. It's usually the fees for it is not as high as coming to a conference in the US, of course, but Yvonne promised she's going to work on something even more affordable to all of our members who might, outside the US, especially who will be getting the different tiers for membership too. The deadline for submission, we're going to open the submission very soon, the next couple of weeks. And the deadline to submit the paper is going to be in sometime in February. I highly encourage you, even if you're working on a research paper that's not complete yet, please submit it. We'd love to give you feedback on it. I think that's what made the trip very helpful for me. Getting feedback on my research, sometimes early on, sometimes later on, but it does help a lot with improving your research. Also expands your network. You might find colleagues later on to work as co-authors with you if you're interested in similar ideas or working on similar ideas. And that's how also can help you with publishing papers, right? We all learn from each other when we work together as a team. And in that Spark meeting, actually, for the first time, we're planning on doing something for doctoral students. So we're one of the initiatives we're working on right now. That's why we're actually delayed on opening the submission, because we've been pushing for this, to have a doctoral student faculty interchange program. So we want both. We want doctoral students and senior or researchers and senior faculty to participate in the program. So you're going to, as a doctoral student, will submit a paper, a working paper. It doesn't have to be polished and ready to be submitted to a journal. And faculty will probably submit a more polished paper. And what's going to happen? We're going to hibernate both of them. Pollinate, not hibernate. So the doctoral student will review the paper for the faculty and give that feedback for the faculty and practice how to discuss the paper. And then the doctoral student will submit a paper, and the faculty or the senior faculty and researcher will provide feedback to the doctoral student. So we're going to match you based on your research interest and your methodology and things like that. And that will give you a chance also to get feedback and practice presentation in a very safe environment. It's a virtual environment, right? And so you will be ready when you want to present it for in an actual in-person meeting, hopefully soon also will be with the American Economic Association. We're also with the international members. We're trying to have maybe add to the polls some maybe special interest, like if there is a specific topic in a certain region, national, would like also to have more submissions than that. So if there is a specific topic in Egypt that you would like to help your profession and what is sustainability or any other topic that you might have, that will also then have a special poll for it. So bear with us, as this is going to be the first time doing it, but hopefully it's going to be of benefit to everyone.
Dr. Ahmed, that seems to be like a great idea. And I can see how eager people are when they heard about this potential. And I am sure our college administration in here would welcome this very much, to the point that if there's a way to really cooperate very fast on that, because they want to publish, they want to write, they want to get the board revised, and they want that international opportunity. And so thank you very much for that. And I think it's time to open the platform for questions. Dr. Ahmed, you wanted to ask a question?
Yes.
ممكن سعادتك تترجمي لها بقى لو if it's accounting.
أنا دكتور أحمد سليم، أستاذ المراجعة في التجارة جامعة الأحد. أنا كنت امبارح حاضر الإيفنت بتاع IMBA في المنظمة العربية، وكان في موضوع مهم جدا اتقال امبارح عن إزاي مواضيع المعايير المحاسبة في العالم، سواء كان IAS أو IFRS Foundation، إزاي بيعتمدوا على وضع المعايير على الابحاث العلميه المنشوره في المجلات الريليفنت. فده اتقال امبارح، واحنا كاكاديميين فاهمين العلاقه، بس اتصور احنا محتاجين نوضح شويه الفكره دي للطلبه الحاضرين ازاي ممكن البحث العلمي يأثر في عملية وضع المعايير وبالتالي في عملنا الأكاديمي وعملنا المهني. هل فعلا عملية وضع معايير المحاسبة في العالم بتعتمد على أبحاث المنشورة في الفيديو؟ هل في عندنا رقم ممكن نقوله عن مثلا كم مرة حصلت الحكاية دي؟ كم بحث تم استعانة بيه في وضع مثلا معايير جديدة زي المعيار رقم 18 اللي هيغير كل حاجة في العالم؟ لا IFRS 16 ده هيغير كل حاجة في المحاسبة المفروض يعني. بس ده كان سؤال. شكرا.
So his question that he presented yesterday, he attended yesterday, and he presented about how our research and the AAA research impacts standard setters, the IASB and IFRS and things like that. So can you, all of them attended, so can you elaborate on that part and how they benefit from the research, and if there is any data on like how many, I don't think we have data about how it's affected, but we can elaborate on how the actual research that you do makes an impact on regulators.
So absolutely, and thank you for that. And thank you for attending yesterday as well. So one of the things we've been doing is it, all right, this is better. Thank you. Thank you very much for your question. One of the things that we have been doing or I've been doing specifically as a part of the Global Research Impact Task Force for AACSB is, we say that our research should impact standard setters, policymakers, regulators, companies. We say that it should have an impact across the board. I also, as I mentioned yesterday, am a big believer that academics do have to talk to academics too. We have to be given that right because we also have to advance research methodology. Nobody outside of academia is going to understand that in theory, but that's okay. There should be room for that. That as far as in impacting standard setters and policymakers, sitting on this Global Research Impact Task Force, I'm like, but we're doing that in accounting. I mean, I know we're doing that in accounting. I've testified before House Ways and Means in our Congress because of my research. I started going to some of the academics, an academic that was on the the IASB, an academic that is on the FASB. And then I have someone on my board who's done quite a bit of research, not published yet, but research on how our research has impacted the PCAOB, so the Public Accounting Oversight Board, Company Oversight Board. And I always have to stop because we're so used to using acronyms. And extensive. So in conversations I've had, and I didn't have the time to go through all of it on the slides yesterday, we just didn't simply have time, but I'm happy to send any of that information out. The academic research is used pretty extensively, at least I know, in the SEC, the IASB, the FASB, and the PCAOB, and I also I'm aware of quite a few strains of research that have been used in congressional testimonies and things like that. And so it really does, we are having an impact now. We have been having an impact now. It's just that we haven't been telling people about it. And I think we need to do it. This shouldn't be a well-kept secret. That I would really like to start doing because I want to show that accounting research is absolutely having an impact. So the IASB and the FASB, I can speak to those two because I work so closely with them. They both hire both of these organizations do. They call them fellows. And they actually have staff. And they will look at what these standard setters are going to be talking about. They'll look at the agenda coming up, and they will go out and they will do, they know how, they've just come out of doctoral programs. They know how to do research. So they will do research on what research has already been done, not just in accounting, but in other fields as well, that might impact. The most recent example is the RevRec and leases and CECL. So, and they will get out in front of the decisions of the standard setters, and they will write papers, summary papers, almost like a lit review paper on all the different research. And I know on leases, they started out with actually being cited in the white paper that was written. And if you talk to the board members, they will tell you that has significant impact on them. Then they also, both of these standards do something called post-implementation review. And so, of course, academics, after a new standard has come out, they start researching it. And they will look at the research on that. We actually had a conference, a joint conference between our top journal, the Accounting Review, the FASB, and the IASB implementation review of those three areas I just mentioned. And it was specifically for that reason. They were looking to academics to see, did we get it right? Where didn't we get it right? Do we need to look at tweaking something in the standard? And so that is critically important, because as we are dealing globally, not all countries, but across the globe, there are a number of countries that are dealing with the questioning of higher education. Our value, the value of people to do research, is it providing an actual value to the community? With that being the case, we've got to be shouting this from the mountaintops at this point, because we need to be showing that we are having an impact. We are having an impact on tax policy decisions that the SEC is making. So that, to me, that's something that the AAA should be doing. But also, I would say individual faculty need to, and I talked a little bit about this yesterday. Don't get that paper published and then say, well, that's great, it goes on my CV, I'm on to the next project. Do something more with it. Talk to your university about how they might support you in getting word out about that research. Is there some type of a press release or a newsletter it can go into? Can they do a podcast? You can do a podcast. Anybody can do a podcast now. So I would say, it's our job to pull some of this together, but it also falls on each individual researcher to make sure that they are getting the word out there too. And honestly, I believe it falls on the administration to support them in that effort, because they have a wider net than you as a faculty member do. So yes, we are having a big impact on that coming out.
Well, thank you for such an explanation. I think that's the type of science that really makes the world tick. Right? So,
my name is الأحد, and I'm in the management area, but still, the majority of this room, researchers and young staff, okay, especially in accounting. From your experience in academia and professional, can you tell them about the relationship or impact or effect or role of AI applications in accounting area? Can you tell them about because they are researchers, right? Thank you.
Do you want to talk about that? Do you want to talk about some of the webinar you just did? Okay. So thank you for that. And Academy of Management was on the Global Research Impact Task Force with me. And we talked about AI quite a bit on that. And I can tell you, we at the American Accounting Association talk about it. I know Academy of Management is talking about it a lot, because we're all kind of leaning on each other. All the academic associations are trying to figure out what the other ones are doing, and we're trying to skate out ahead of what the researchers are doing. But I would say that AI is playing a pretty big role. Closure policy now at the AAA, and we've already had to revise it. It just came out last year, and we've already had to revise it, because people are quite creative in how they're using AI in research. We just had someone, and I don't recommend this, and our policy now forbids it, but But it was because of that that's one of the reasons we changed our policy. We actually had a paper that they just fed a bunch of stuff in and had them write it. And this is from a very high level school. They had them write the entire paper, and we don't recommend that. In fact, we don't really, we want researchers doing research. But there is no reason why you should not use AI to help you pull your thoughts together. You can use it in the research. We're a little bit more restrictive on how our reviewers can use it. They can use it in limited ways, but again, one of the things that we are very careful of is your intellectual property. And I know Academy of Management is, and AAA is. And so if some information might get out there into the public domain, and this is going to be copyrighted material, you can't do that. And this is your intellectual property. So, until somebody else owns the copyright, it's yours. And we do not want that happening. They're allowed to use AI to help them, after they've written their review, refine the review. But from the researcher standpoint, you just have to disclose how you've used AI. And like I said, you can't use it to write the whole paper and then sort of tweak it and turn it in. But other than that, you can use AI, but you will need to disclose exactly how you used it, what you use, what form of AI you use. And I mean, I don't see why we wouldn't. But what I will tell you about is be very, very careful. One of the things that I see, it was every couple of weeks, now it's probably on a weekly basis, is I will get a complaint from an editor that, well, I was going to send this paper out for review and I just decided to check the references and they don't exist. Or 5 of them, yeah, they're hallucinations. And I just shake my head sometimes because I'm like, wait a minute. Teaching in accounting ethics. If you're going to use it for that, which you can use it for that, make sure that the references are real. And sort of the reason behind having a reference in your paper is that you've actually read that paper and put it into your paper as backup. Think very carefully about how you use it, but you absolutely should. There's no reason why you can't use AI to help support you. What we are finding across the different academies is, and I'm drawing a blank right now on what they are, but there are certain words that AI tends to use that we were not seeing in research papers before, and now they're showing up, and our senior editors have that list. And they're looking for some of those. And they're very valid words, but it's just that we were not seeing them as prolifically as we're seeing them now. So we're on watch, but we're also not discouraging the use, because why would you want to if you can use it in a way that really helps you? But that's what I would say. Do you want to add?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Yvonne mentioned. And I might even complement it maybe with the teaching side, because the accounting function has been changing a lot, and we need to make sure that we prepare our students for today and tomorrow's job market. And one of the things, like Yvonne mentioned that earlier, that graduates now are working with the skill that's expected from a 4 or 5 year experience accountant a few years ago. So how can we make sure we're preparing them for that with the analytical mindset and even AI, right? Because students are using AI even better than me. My kids are using so how can we make sure that we are helping them use it in a way that improves their critical thinking, improves their understanding rather than, so again, in most corporations now, their accountants, the routine things, they're not doing it anymore. What they want from accountants and others is to make sure that they know how to solve problems, how to provide insight, how to do the critical thinking, how can they think strategically, right? How can they make sense and insights of the numbers that they have in front of them. How can they make a story, right? How can they justify things and provide ethical interpretations of things? So how can we make sure that we are incorporating that in our classroom? And it's not reusing it. So some of the ideas that was shared in the previous webinar that I was mentioning is that how can you, for example, give an exercise or a mini case to your students and tell them, why don't you use AI for it? And then don't grade it on the output, but grade it on how they reflect on it. What are the issues that they found? Or even talk to a professional and give them, the problem that they had and see, or if they're making a decision, what would be the decision? See what's the difference between what AI provided to you and what's the judgment of the professional, for example. And that helps in improving the critical thinking, making sure that they have the right way to judge things and things like that. So there's a lot of things. This is a great question. I probably need days to answer, but if you have, we can elaborate on that more, but I want to give a chance to everyone else to have any questions.
Thank you.
My name is Hassan. I'm a teaching assistant in Applied Statistics Department, and I want to ask you about a valuable piece of advice you have to give for a PhD student trying to get their first paper accepted by AAA affiliated journals.
Okay. Well, I would say for a PhD student trying to get into a AAA journal, one of the first things you need to do is make sure you've targeted the correct journal. So oftentimes one of the main reasons that we see a editor or senior editor just desk reject, never even send it to review, is that either it doesn't align with the mission of the journal, or it's not quite ready. And we do see a lot of that. We see a lot of times people will send papers to us and they're really not ready for review. I think sometimes we've actually done some focus groups on this, and what they've told us is they'll tell us, well, we were just kind of hoping that we would get some really good comments back to help us write a better paper. We knew it was going to get rejected. It's like, no, that's not going to give you a good shot at getting in. So make sure that it's a well-refined paper. Make sure that it's a paper that you've probably presented to your faculty. If they're presented to other PhD students. I don't know whether the universities around here have any type of consortium where you can go to each other's university and present papers. I think that's a great idea. It's often great to get out and present papers in front of people who you're not around every day. They'll have different questions. But I think that helps you really get that paper baked so that it's ready to be submitted. The other thing I see with papers is I see them fail in quality control. And that is usually because people haven't fully read all the requirements. It's supposed to be in a certain font, and you're supposed to have a title page, and your author's names on the title page need to match the author's names in the submission. If there's even one letter or a middle initial off, it's gonna get kicked out of quality. It's never even gonna get to the editor. So you really do have to make sure that you read all of the manuscript requirements for that journal. And then after that, if it doesn't if it makes it through quality control and it gets sent out for a reviewer, that's when you've got your best shot, because now it's already been validated as meeting the mission of the journal. So I would say just make sure that you're reading all the guidelines and reading the mission, and that you're appropriately submitting it to the right journal. Thank you. Yeah.
I think there was a very good and relevant paper published, I think in 2025 or sometime late 2024, in the Issues of Accounting Education journal, which is one of the publications of the American pronunciation. It was specifically for doctoral students on how to write the introduction of the paper. I found this a very, very helpful paper that I encourage you to all to read. It talks about the what, the why, and the how in the introduction. So this is very important because the introduction also, beside what Yvonne mentioned, makes a huge difference in whether you're creating, you're putting your story, why this paper is important, the contribution of the paper, right? And that's what usually reviewers would give you a chance to even improve the paper, won't tell you, there's no contribution that I can see for the paper. So this is one of the things that I highly recommend, that you make sure that you are doing a very, very good job in the introduction specifically. The other thing that Yvonne mentioned also is making sure that the paper is ready. And one of the measures to see if the paper is ready or not is to circulate the paper, presenting it, including conferences. Don't be shy to send your paper to conferences, but make sure it's a conference that will fit you with your paper. So for example, if you're submitting a paper to the annual conference or the Spark conference for the American Accounting Association, there is different sections. But don't submit the paper to all the sections. Make sure to submit the paper to the right section within the conference. So if your paper is in financial reporting, make sure that it's submitted to the financial reporting section so you can get the right feedback, and also make sure that you're matched with the right discussant to give you a feedback. Because those two are very important parts of your paper. Makes your paper much better. What you get is a feedback from the reviewer, and what you get is a feedback from the discussant as much as possible. And try to do it multiple conferences too, not just one conferences, honestly. And even for as Yvonne mentioned, see if there is any research workshop at another university, and see if you can present it and get feedback, whether virtual or in person.
Oh, thank you very much. That was very insightful. I guess we have time for a couple of questions that we can take from our students, because the students didn't have a chance to ask any questions. So we will start with it.
So you talked about how tutors and teachers could use AI to integrate the research. But us as students, we have this upcoming research paper that's going to be represented in front of some of our governmental, respective government officials. I would just like to know what are some things that you wish someone could have told you at the start and beginning of your career, so that you could help us with our upcoming research paper.
So, yeah, you want to
So
start?
just to clarify, first of all, what's your name? Yusa, that's my son's name. Nice meeting you, Yusa. So your question is how to write the paper or how to present the paper? The research for the paper. So how can you use AI to research for the paper? I think that's a good starting point to use AI, right?
I would say look to what your College of Business says that you can do first. That's the first thing I would do. Because I don't know if you have any, a lot of universities have AI policies, many don't. You do? Okay, so you have an AI policy, so look to that first and stay within the confines of that for sure. That's number one. After that, I mean, some of the best ways I've really seen AI used, and I'm gonna be really transparent here and tell you AAA uses AI. We only use it to write because we have a closed AI system that we used, so we don't have to worry about it getting uploaded. We will use it to take papers and write executive summaries or create infographics and things like that. To the extent that you can use it to refine the writing, I think that's a good idea. I just don't know what your policy is, so I want to make sure you stay within the company. Okay, he'll give you a copy of it. But just make sure you're staying within that. But the way I have seen it used for things like research paper, to make it tighter, so that you don't have a lot of extraneous words and things like that in there. So that's really what I've seen. And then if you're presenting, I have seen people use AI to actually help them generate their presentation, to pull out the really salient points of their presentation so that they make sure that in their presentation they're hitting those specific points and not leaving something out. So, I mean, that's the way I've seen it used. Is that within your policy? Oh, good.
And they have
Tell them where you used it.
Yeah, and I agree. And then I would say, like, use AI at the beginning to search for things. So this is a good way to start if you don't have any clue how to start. You can start, you can type and make sure that you're using the good prompts, good prompts. So prompt engineering, that's why we want to invest our time to make sure that we are using good prompts to get garbage in, garbage out, right? So make sure that you use good prompts and then make sure to double, triple check everything that the AI gives you. So if they tell you this is the resource, it's available on this one, and they would give you the resource and you find that's completely something different. So make sure that you go back and double check it, all right? And don't just, because at the end of the day, so make sure that you really, double check and review and, the source of the information. And then make sure that you don't tell the AI to generate the original writing from it, because I'm going to tell you it helps me a lot, and it's going to mix. The attribution is going to be completely mixed up because I have the same issue and I have to learn it. So, for example, if you even give them, I uploaded before some of the papers and I asked, I was just experimenting. I uploaded the paper and I gave them a question, give AI questions, specific questions to write a paragraph, just one paragraph. And it did a good job of writing a very impressive paragraph, but when it just mixed the attributions. So that author attributed to that author, the word, the sentence was correct, but what the source was incorrect. So again, it can help you as an assistant, but you want to make sure that you is reviewing and checking everything. But it can help in polishing the writing too.
Okay, what are some references? What are some references that you would say I could check out at the beginning? Research.
It depends on the question. So it depends on the question or what are you looking for, what's the project you're looking for. But you can ask ChatGPT, here's a topic I'm interested in. What are some of the research papers related to it? And it can give you the source and then go back to the source, make sure that you read it, summarize it, and then go forward with it. Did that help answer your question?
Thank you very much. We have time to take the final question. So, number 10.
Hello, my name is Amar Hassan. I am a second year student, and we all focus about AI and how we use it. And my question is how to avoid using AI, because if we look at it realistically, it's affecting us negatively more than positively. So, and you guys look at it from a teaching perspective, and I respect that, but us students, I think if we graduated, we'll have the question is, how do we keep up with AI, or at least be as the same knowledgeable as AI?
No, is this on? That's an excellent question, and we've avoided using AI forever up until the last few years. So it's tough to avoid using AI when you need it to be job ready. So I think you are gonna have to understand it and use it, and you'll probably be using it in some of your classes, but you don't have to use it when you don't want to use it. But I will tell you that the recruiters, they're going to expect you to have at least a base level of how to use AI and how to use it responsibly. So, I would say completely avoiding using it in your career is probably not going to make you as job ready as at least having a basic understanding of how it can be used and how it can be used responsibly. You wanna?
Yeah, definitely. I think about AI as a tool.
Yeah.
The same as you have a calculator. Why don't you use a calculator if you need a calculator, especially if you have a problem you cannot solve, by yourself. So it's a tool, and you need to, as any other tool, you need to understand what are the advantages of the tool, what are the problems, the restrictions, and the issues with the tool. And that's where it makes it different whether you're going to benefit from it or it's going to hurt you, right? So again, understand what's the tool, and this tool changes dramatically every day. So I cannot say if my experience last week or last month was negative, I'm sure it's going to be resolved by now. So you need, again, you need understanding these tools and be comfortable with it, right? So you can use it when you need it and use it to leverage your work. It's not going to replace you, but you need to be comfortable with using these tools.
Well, I think we came over to the end of our round today, even though I'm certain that people would love if we extend this for another couple of hours or so. But you promise us there will be next time. All right, so I would really like to thank you. And please give a round of applause to both Dr. Benson and Dr. Thank.